Greetings, welcome back to another episode of Man Cave Meals. Today we are going to start a new video series called The Basics of Barbecue. I wanted to spend a little time showing you how you can take simple equipment and make all this wonderful barbecue, like Boston butts for pulled pork, beef brisket, spare ribs, baby back ribs, you know, the whole gamut of barbecue. This grill right here is a fairly standard Kettle grill. You can find these anywhere and you can get them cheap. You can get a really cheap model for, I've seen them for as low as $30 to $40, or you can buy a little bit nicer model and spend all the way up to $300 or $350 on a kettle like this. All kettles are not created equal. They have various niceties about them. Some grills are better than others. This is a middle of the road model. It's a Weber One Touch Gold, and I particularly like the Weber grills because they're better made. They're going to last you a lot longer than most of the other grills, and we'll look at some of the details of this grill in this first video. But like I said, this is a 22.5-inch grill, which is big enough for cooking all of those things I just mentioned, and it will cook high heat. You can cook hot dogs, burgers, steaks, chicken, you know, whatever you want to cook that's going to cook hot and fast. Or you can cook low and slow, like your Boston butts, at the 225 to 250 degree temperature range, and cook them all day long in a grill like this. So with that being said, let's take a look at some of the details of this grill and how it works. Okay, this is the inside of my Weber kettle, and what we have here is the charcoal grate that sits down low. It's a very heavy duty grate. It should last a very long time. I've used this one an awful lot and it's not really showing any signs of wear. But this is where your charcoal goes in this grill, and down underneath that you can see the oblong holes. Those holes in this grill serve a dual purpose. They're air intake to allow air to come in and keep the charcoal burning, but on this particular grill model it's also an ash removal system. The handle, I've got a handle on the side I can turn, and it rakes the ash down into the holes into a catch pan down underneath. So the air intake on these grills is important when you want to cook low and slow, like when you want to cook ribs or a Boston butt or a brisket, because you want to keep the temperature low, and you'll achieve that by closing off the air vent to restrict the amount of air that comes into the grill. That's very important. So when you're shopping for a grill, you want to find one that has that functionality that will allow you to control the air that's coming in. So, for high heat grilling, like steaks, burgers, you know, whatnot, that you're going to cook hot and fast, you just dump your charcoal, your lit charcoal, in here onto the grate. And the next tool you're going to need for that process is a charcoal starter chimney. I highly recommend these. They're cheap. This is a Weber model. It's about $15. You can get cheaper ones. I've seen these things as low as $8 and $9 in various makes and models. But what this does is allows you to fill this up with charcoal. It's got a grate on the bottom, and underneath it you light it up with, you can use newspaper. You can soak your newspaper or a couple of paper towels in a little bit of cooking oil to light it up and let it burn a little longer. Or you can buy various types of starter cubes to light the charcoal up. I highly recommend avoiding the use of the charcoal starter fluids. The fluids tend to change the flavor of your meat a little bit, and it's not very tasty in my opinion. So I try to avoid the use of charcoal starter fluids at all costs. So for a hot and fast cook, you'll fill that up with charcoal and start it, and then dump your charcoal right back here onto your charcoal grate. And then you put your grill rack on. And this is also a Weber grill rack, and I like it because it's also heavy duty. It's a lot more durable than most of the grills I've seen, and I think its longevity is going to be pretty good. The other thing I really like about it is on each side it has a flip up grate where you can actually, if you wanted to add some smoking wood chunks into your charcoal while it's cooking, you can raise the grate up and do that. The other nice thing about these grates that lift up here on both sides is it gives you access to your charcoal pans if you're using those. Weber has another accessory you can buy. These are charcoal baskets, and these are designed to use when you want to do indirect cooking, whether it be something like a Boston butt or anything where you want to cook your food over indirect heat. You fill these guys up with charcoal, then put your grill grate back on and cook over the middle where the heat's on the sides. You can also put a drip pan underneath there if you like, and with our hinged racks we can get to here to add more charcoal if we need to, or to add wood chunks for smoking. These charcoal baskets aren't really a requirement. They're nice to have. You can just bank charcoal to one side, or you can use something like a fire brick and just stand a brick up here and another one up here and put your charcoal behind it for indirect cooking. And that basically covers the Kettle grill. There's not a whole lot to these things. They're very inexpensive and they're very easy to work with. It takes a little bit of time to get the hang of doing the low and slow cooking, and in our next video I will actually do a low and slow cook on this grill. I'll cook a rack of ribs here, which would be a 5 or 6 hour long cook, 4 to 6 hours depending on the rack of ribs, and I'll show you how to operate this grill low and slow. The hot and fast cooking, I don't think there's really any demonstration needed for that. Everybody that's ever grilled before knows how to pull that off. You just simply put the charcoal on the grate and cook directly over it. But we'll go into some low and slow cooking here with this grill and show you how that's done. And throughout this video series I'm going to show you several different types of cookers that you can use for backyard barbecue. This will be the first one, and the reason I've chosen to start with this one is because it's sort of the least common denominator. It's the type of charcoal grill that most people are likely to have. And like I said, they're also inexpensive. They're a great place to start. I've got several other cookers. This one I don't typically use for low and slow cooking, but it is fully capable of that, and I'm going to show you that as well. So that about wraps it up. The lid also has an exhaust vent that you can see here. And I always cook with this exhaust vent fully open. I never close it down, but it will allow you to close it down. But I typically leave that vent all the way open on this grill. So that wraps up our overview of the Weber kettle. And next time around when we see you, we'll cook some ribs on this kettle, and I'll show you how that works.